Hey there, and welcome to Art School Dissections, where we take pencils and scalpels to get to the bottom of truths about art school and the art industry. My name is Peyton Hunt. I also go by Broken Jaw, and I'm here with
Maddie Gabhart, also known as Mad Gabhart.
If you'd like to take a look at our credentials, we'll have our socials and portfolios listed in the description. If this is your first time joining us in our studio, we're a couple of art school grads who are trying to make sense of life in art after art school. This week, we are talking about the pace of creation versus the quality of your life.
It's a hard balance.
It is a hard
That's
balance.
That's why we gotta talk about it.
Yeah, it's important. So, basic overview. We're going to be talking about the difference between your pace of life and creation when you're in art school versus the drastic change once you leave art school. It is a bit of a shell shock.
A little bit.
And they don't really tell you to prepare for it.
Yeah, it was kind of just assumed that even though you were going through this huge life transition, that you would be able to create in the same way and at the same rapid pace that was expected of you at art school. But that's just not how that cookie crumbles most of the time. If it did for you, tell me what you did.
Some people just have that innate motivation that I wish I had, because I don't.
I was definitely a gold star kid, so if I got praise, I did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this, not specifically praise, but that validation and constant critique from your peers of that instant, oh, you did a good job making this thing. Thank you so much. That was helpful. And not just that, it was having the schedule and deadlines and consequences of if you didn't meet those deadlines too.
Something came from it. Yeah. Where when you're doing stuff kind of just for yourself, unless you set those deadlines, it's like, yeah, I'll do it when I do it. And then there's no consequence, and then you don't do it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's kind of going to be the basic premise for the whole thing. We're going to talk about a successful pace that worked for both of us, and then a not so successful pace, just kind of with personal accountability.
Yeah, just examples of our own creation stories, if you will.
Because we've talked about what we like to do, but we haven't talked about what exactly we do.
And how.
Yes. But yeah, and then we will be talking about, just to give a premise of the Life and Art Update, so you definitely stick around for it. We're going to be talking about the podcast and the stuff that went into making it. So for our visual people, you'll be kind of hearing about the behind the scenes of what it took to make this.
Yeah.
Because it is just the two of us.
It is. And we've never done a podcast before.
Nope.
If you couldn't tell. I hope you couldn't. But
I really...
Yeah. We haven't done a lot of video, audio stuff, but we are learning.
Yeah.
And we do know, we do have degrees now.
Yeah.
In the visual language. But there's a lot of things that we have tried, and it's been a very cool experience.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk and dive more into that. And I'm going to stop rambling.
So we can just go straight into kind of the difference between art school and the real world. Kind of starting with the pace of art school. So, and this can be different for any art school. For where we went at CCAD, you didn't have Friday classes unless you were a specific few majors, or you took there were a couple really long classes that happened on Fridays because most people didn't have classes. Yeah. So excluding Fridays, it was a Monday to Thursday. And then we talked about this before, but your studio classes go about 3 hours. And that's your stuff where you're working in class. I mean, not that you don't do that for other classes, but not as much. And then your liberal arts, your math, your writing, your science, those were typically an hour and a half.
It was hour 15.
Yeah.
Most of the time. and such a big difference between the two. Like what was expected outside of class on top of those either 3 hour twice a week or 1.5 hour twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
And a normal semester, it was recommended you did 15 credit hours, and that's like 3 studios and 2 liberal arts classes. Not
Yeah.
everyone was able to do that every time, but
No.
that's the recommended average
The good
situation.
balance.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want you doing all studios or all liberal arts or
Yeah, don't do that.
you
Don't do
were
that.
an exception.
I just wanted to graduate on time,
Yeah.
and that's my own fault. So,
But you did it and it
I
worked
did,
out.
yeah.
So it's fine. But yeah, so it was a lot of, I mean, your classes can start as early as 8 a.m. Some of our classes ended at like 9:45.
Mm-hmm.
So I know my freshman year, my very first day, it was an 8 a.m. studio class. That's 3 hours. And then I had a liberal arts class at like 12:30. So that's an hour and a half. And then my next class didn't start until 6 and ended at 9:45. That was my first day ever at school. That was my Monday and Wednesdays for a whole semester. And I was like, wow, I feel so chipper. This is crazy. I can wake up early because I was homeschooled. I didn't have to like wake up early for classes. So I was like,
oh, that's true.
my classes started at like 9 or whenever we rolled out of bed. Like, so going to a school where it's like, no, you got to be in class at this time. I had so much energy at the beginning because I'm like, this is new and I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get later on, you're like, I can't do these. The really early and the really late classes suck.
Yeah, especially if you have them on the same day.
Yes.
Or back to back.
Or you commute.
Oh god, yeah. When I commuted, and I had my first semester, I think I had an 8 a.m. and then I had one that ended at 9:45 p.m. and I was driving back and forth. I would stay on campus all day, just like in the common areas, because I didn't have a dorm.
Yeah.
So I'd just be in between classes working on stuff. But I got to know people, and it was a lot of fun in that regard.
Kind of forces you to
Yeah.
either be social or just chill.
Or just fall asleep on the quad.
Sit on your phone and doom scroll.
Girl.
There are a couple of those
Yeah,
days.
a couple of those days. Definitely not my yesterday at all. Definitely did not happen.
But you had those classes, and then on top of it, you had work for those classes outside of classes.
Mm-hmm. So even though those studio classes were 6 hours in class a week, you still probably had at least 3 to 6 hours outside of class every week for each of those classes. If you were doing everything you were supposed to.
Yes.
You could cut corners, and sometimes you should, but
do what you gotta do.
Yeah, do what you gotta do.
There's no judgment.
No, none at all. Yeah.
Take the time. You'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I know they at the end of semesters we would fill out a form of being like, this is what I thought about this class. And one of the questions was, how many hours did you spend on this class? I don't remember if it said in class or just in general, but like I think the max for it was 18 plus, and there were a couple classes that I did in fact have to put 18 plus hours, including those studios. So, I mean, so that's 12 hours outside.
That's half a whole day.
Yeah. And that's for those classes. Typically it's for those classes that are a lot more in depth than they should be for a single semester. So the deadlines are very fast for a medium or a type of process that is, I mean, in the real world, you're not going to have to work that fast on it.
No, and like some mediums and processes are meant to take a long time, and there's a beauty in that. But yeah, some professors really did try and cram as much knowledge and process into one semester as they possibly could, which I respected, but there wasn't time.
No.
There was not time for it. So we kind of got a half-baked version of some of these things, or we could have gotten a fully baked version of like maybe 3 things.
Yeah.
And that maybe would have served us better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's like for my storyboarding class, that one kicked my ass. And it was last semester senior year, so I already was ready to be out of there. Didn't like the class.
Already done.
But and I had to restart a project in the middle of like me working on it. And it was just one of those classes where you had to work on it outside of class because the classes themselves would just the talks would go on too long, or we were watching movies, or like, doing video analysis, and you never actually got time in class to work. And it was like, okay, that's fun.
Irritating.
And then like my system on my computer that I was supposed to use for it just stopped working, and the customer service that my professor was like, you need to reach out to them. They weren't getting back to me, and it was getting too late to deadlines. So I didn't even live on campus, and I spent most of my time on campus running from computer lab to computer lab, because at a certain point at our campus, there were almost 0 computers not in a classroom. And the ones that weren't in the classroom didn't have the updated software. So I remember I was running around with one of our friends, Kale, and I think we visited 5 classrooms. 5 across campus. I think we went to 3 different buildings at like 9 p.m. to like 11 p.m. Just like running around, because we'd go to one and it's a class, can't go in. We'd go to the next one, it doesn't have the updated software. Go to the next one, it doesn't even have the software. Go to the next one, it has it, but it's logged into somebody else's just like their page, because you'd have to log in on the computers, and it wouldn't let us log out. It was stuck.
Perfect.
And I think we found a classroom, we started working on it, and then our files wouldn't upload, and we're just like, we're going home.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
No, yeah, so it's like, that's like 2 hours of your time.
Mm-hmm.
It was just gone.
So what you can take from that is
me rambling.
You always need more time than you think.
Yes.
The 20% rule, like if you are trying to outline a project or just tackle making something, it's going to take 20% longer than you think. At the very least. At the very least. That is just the cute little buffer percentage that I like to add.
That's just accounting for like yourself. Human. That's like accounting for human error.
Mm-hmm.
And then
life.
Yeah. And then like there's more stuff that can like happen on top of that. So like just prepare yourself. Mm-hmm. Give yourself that extra time and plan that ahead when you are picking out your project. Like especially if you're in class and you're given like a new class project, this is what it is, this is your deadline, add that 20% and realize for yourself, like, oh, can I do what I originally wanted to do with this timeline? And it might work, it might not. And then you have to pivot and you have to find out what works. Or you can be like, probably not, but this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's all you need to like drive you forward. It's a lot of looking inside, just like, okay, let's be real for a second. Can I do this?
Yeah.
And like
what's going to serve you?
Mm-hmm.
Like your future self. Be nice to your future self.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Don't let pride screw you over. Like I still do that, but
it's hard not to.
It's like, oh, I can absolutely do that. Because I have the gene where it's like, oh, I can do that. I can figure out just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I can't, but you just gotta keep trying. And yeah, I don't know when this turned into like a self-help speech, but it did just now. Yeah. Sorry, y'all.
Oh, we have a fly in the studio. Hello, friend. If you see buzzing around the camera, it's just our new little studio pet. He's fine. But yeah, so being in art school is a lot of like back-to-back stuff happening. You're constantly thinking about classes, you're constantly working on classes. That is kind of like what's going on up here and the dome.
Yeah. 3 to 4 projects at a time
Yeah.
at different stages. So it's like time management, project management,
And
and while learning new things.
that is something that I didn't do in school. And looking back on it after the fact, every single time I'm like, why didn't I do this? Was looking at all of, like, some of the professors will put out kind of like, these are all of your projects and like their basic time periods.
Yeah.
In case something happens, just like, this is kind of when it's happening, or you can ask them. But especially looking at final projects, I kind of screwed this up my senior year, where I didn't look at where everything was capping off. And, or I guess it wasn't the final project, but the one right before that. It's like in the anticipation for the last ones. They all ended at the exact same time.
Oh, God.
And it was like all my hard classes.
Oh, no.
And all stuff that required me to be on campus for like the materials and stuff. So it's just like, oh, well, I picked a really hard project for this one class because I'm passionate about it. But I picked another pretty difficult class for this other or different project because I was like, oh, yeah, sure, I can do it. I shouldn't have put 2 difficult ones next to each other that ended the exact same time.
Yeah, in context. It's like, your project isn't separate. Your projects aren't separate from your life. Like, you've got to look at the whole picture.
Yeah.
Bird's eye view.
It's really easy to like, it's really easy to just like focus in on that one project you're like really excited for and just kind of forget about the other ones. You go to class, you're like, sure, I'm doing that. And then like add it to your list. And then you get like 3/4 of the way through and you're like, oh, I can't breathe because I added so much to my plate and I can't go back.
Yeah.
I'm past the halfway point.
Yeah.
I got to finish. Or just take the L and call it a night and move on to the next. Like,
and sometimes you have to do that.
Yes, and that's okay.
Yeah. Not everything you make in art school is going to be pretty perfect, pristine. And that's because you are doing 3 projects at a time. Like, at minimum.
Yeah, at very minimum. And then you also might have liberal arts stuff. So you might have tests and studying
essays,
and all that stuff. So it is a lot of looking at the whole picture, talking to yourself and being on the same page, and then knowing where to put your time.
Yeah. Now we're talking about what the pace is like after art school. And blanket statement, it varies for everyone and everything in every single walk of life. So there isn't really a straight answer here, which I know is a non-answer. But we're going to go into some specifics later with our own paces of creation and what has been helpful and what has been not as helpful. So hopefully we'll get some more understanding from those experiences. And you guys will get something out of it too. But there isn't a right way. There are just ways that make you feel better and prouder of what you make. That's the blanket statement.
Really, that's all there is. And it's, you know, some people get a job right out of school and they're straight to the 9 to 5 and they're doing their creating there most of the time. Or you don't have an art job, which is where I'm sitting at, and your day is split up by creating your own stuff and applying for jobs and going to a part-time and just repeating that cycle. And, you know, things work out or they don't. You just keep applying. And it's a lot of just like planning each day by day, aside from those small little constants.
And yeah, going day by day is a good way to do it. It's also helpful for me. I have, if you're watching on the YouTubes, I have this cute little bullet journal that I got for Christmas. And I plan out my days, my month, and my whole year in this journal. And this is the first year I've done it. And oh my God, it's helped my creation process so much. I've gotten so much done just because I've written down. It feels like the discipline of art school when I have something written down, like this is an expectation that I'm not just thinking. It's an expectation that I have put on ink, not on my body, but on paper. So that's just as permanent as tattoo. But planning out month by month or week by week of what, or figuring out what your long-term goal is and then breaking it down into actionable steps. I know that's very general, but it was mind-boggling changing for me. So, like, I'm finally writing my book that I've had on the back burner for years. I'm doing other things, but we can talk more specifics here in a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like, I know a lot of people that, note taking is their way to consistently be on top of goals. I know people that like have to just set reminders.
Oh, absolutely.
But like go off on their phone, or I have a calendar written down on the wall, and that's more just for like general stuff because I live with my partner, so it's just to keep track of like the weeks and what's going on. But even that is just like, I think being able to have kind of an understanding of your schedule for like any section of like your day to day is important, just so you can then work with the in betweens.
Yeah, work in the in betweens too. I like that.
Because like my usual day to day is, I decide if I want to work on stuff at home or at the studio. Because when I work here at the studio, it is technology free besides like YouTube videos to listen to while I work. Or if I'm doing something digitally, I stay home. And then I do that for a couple hours, and then I apply to a couple jobs, and then I go to my 2 to 6, and then I go home and kind of just let the day play out from there and take a breather. And that's how I go, unless there's something else planned, and then I work around it, and I save the breathers for the next day. Or yeah, it's kind of nice just to have those open schedules. Like yesterday, I was tired, and I knew today was going to be a really long day, so I was like, I'm just going to sit down and play some video games before work because I need it.
Lovely.
So you don't have to be creating every day, and you don't have to feel bad about not creating every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like when you leave art school, you are still on top of it. Because honestly, when you leave art school, and most of the people I know after they graduated, we stopped creating for like, at the very least, like a month. And you just
breathe.
Just let yourself be a human again. A normal person out of school, which is what most of us, like, that's all we've known. So that is such a huge change to go from structure for how many years to here you go.
There's no structure except the one you put in place for yourself.
Yep.
So that's good.
It's hard.
Someone who was never taught how to do that.
It's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. I write notes on my hands, and that's how I remember little things that have to get done. Because otherwise, I mean, I can't do lists. I'm really bad at them. But if it's on my hand, I'll be like, oh, wow, there's something on there. What is that? And then I'm like, oh, I have to do those things. And then I do them. It actually works surprisingly well, and it's a little embarrassing.
Why? It's not embarrassing.
Because I go to work, and I work with children, and they're like, why does it say shower and dishes on your hand? I'm like, well, don't ask me these questions.
You don't need to know. I shower with my dishes.
Like, don't worry about it. I'm glad you can read, but
I'm glad the children are literate now. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, it really is just finding what works for you, and it doesn't have to be immediate. And when you find that thing, roll with it, and then make it work for you.
Yeah. That grace period is very important.
Yes.
Because while I was in art school, and like even still a little bit now, I'm working on it, my worth was attached to what I could make and produce and how I could do that. And now I'm separating myself from what I make and like my innate worth as a person, like keeping those things separate because I'm more than what I do. And so like I am what I am. Yeah. So there was a lot of shame, I think, whenever I graduated and then I wasn't immediately making all the things that I had dreamed of or planned in my head. Like, oh, I'm immediately going to be this big success. I'm going to be a stellar star, and people are going to be, wow,
yeah,
look at her go.
where you're like, I finally have all this time.
Right.
I can actually make these things I've wanted to. And then you get there and you just melt.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, I'm tired.
Yeah. The rug got pulled out from under you with all that structure, all that pace.
Yeah.
Like, because you're sprinting the whole way through art school. You're sprinting.
Your fight or flight's on constantly.
No, seriously. Seriously. I'm watching my partner graduate right now, and I'm slowly seeing him, like, leave the fight or flight. And I'm like, oh my God, was I like that? I think we all were.
Yeah.
And it's weird seeing, like, experiencing yourself graduating, but then seeing people you love graduate, like seeing you graduate, and then it's like, oh my God, all these things. I know how that feels.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the reasons why we made this, was because, I don't know, I think I felt pretty lonely after graduating. I was like, oh, what did I do? What am I doing now?
Yeah.
You know, and I think being vulnerable in a place where people need that vulnerability is hopefully helpful. Mm-hmm. Let us know in the comments.
At least hopefully we're entertaining.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. But it's kind of the, like, after the adrenaline's worn off, you realize, kind of like what we're talking about, again, like in this podcast, is like the stuff we wish we had known, mm-hmm. the things that we know now, and kind of just giving that, like, that possible bit of security, mm-hmm. of being like, it's okay what you're doing now, it's okay what you're not doing, because it's kind of a shared experience, and you don't really realize that. Like, when you're in school, you kind of have that shared experience, but I've been able to hang out with some friends post-graduating. We're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
We all were tired leaving, and we all felt so much shame for it. And we'd sit down and we'd talk about it, and we'd be like, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And that felt so good.
Yeah, so if you take anything from this, you're not by yourself.
You aren't. You aren't. It'll get better. Mm-hmm. I promise.
Yeah.
It does.
Once you find your own structure and what you decide is important for yourself, and not what a professor decides is important, or what's going to get you a grade. Mm-hmm. Making stuff not for grades, but for yourself, or for a client, or
customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is, I will say, just talking about that, because something I've struggled with is, like, having Franklin Fridays here at the studio. Mm-hmm. I have gotten back into that bad brain habit of being like, oh, I need to make stuff to sell. There needs to be a balance of making stuff for you and just making stuff to make stuff.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that you kind of just make for the fun of it end up being your best work anyways,
yeah.
And that's what you want to share.
Yeah.
When you're, like, forcing yourself to make stuff for people, and that goes for school, and that goes for, like, selling and all of that, it kind of, sometimes it takes the life out of it, and you just gotta, like, take a step back and be like, I'm just gonna make stuff.
Well, in life in general, if you're doing something for somebody else, not because you want to, it's not going to be as good. You're not going to feel proud of it. You're going to have resentment, and
it's going to feel like a chore.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't.
No, making should not feel like a chore. It's a blessing. It's an opportunity. It's really the most beautiful thing humanity has to offer. Making pretty things that bring joy and understanding and community. Anyway, I take off my, like,
put that on a shirt. So
the podcast.
We've been so excited to talk about making this, and today is the first day in real life with people that we're going to be talking about it, because today's Franklin Friday again. Yeah. And it's our launch party. Woo, woo, woo. So we finally get to really show off the work that we've been working on for so long.
It's been like a lot of months of work and trial and error.
It's been 7 months.
No way.
7 months.
Uh-uh.
That's so many months.
That's 7. That's 7 months. But
Oh
look
my
where we are.
gosh.
Look where we are.
Yeah,
Like,
we did it.
yeah, but
Yeah.
things take longer than you expect. This is much longer than the 20% rule that I said earlier.
You guys want to hear a funny story? So we came up with the idea in October. We met for the first time for it at the beginning of November, and we were building our timeline, and we said, we're going to upload episode 1 by January 1st.
Oh my god.
They are being released today, which is May 10th. We really said, we can do this, which is such an art-pilled brain of being like, I can do that.
Absolutely.
Like, we didn't even take our own advice that we just talked about.
No.
Being like,
No.
give yourself a grace period.
And to be fair, if we were only releasing the first episode, it would have been released a lot sooner.
Yes.
But we decided to pivot, and now we're doing a 3-episode.
Release.
In a studio. Like, we weren't planning to have a studio space for a while.
Yeah. This was like we were going to hop back from each other's houses.
Mm-hmm.
Which would have been wild.
We like practiced our setup at your place, and I had like our big lights in my living room for a while.
Yeah.
Big studio lights. It's really good for puzzles, actually.
Yeah. They have such good lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of we worked really hard on it. And I think we ended up making it like grow into something even better than we had originally imagined. Yeah. We kind of just like got this, at least for me, I felt this like major inspiration of being like, I have a big project to work on, and it's with somebody, and there's accountability, and it's something I'm passionate about. And, you know, we just kept going with it, and we kept getting ideas, and just kept like
fleshing it out.
Yeah, and we did it. Like, we made all these amazing assets, and, you know, have all this stuff now to show off for it.
Yeah, like we did all of the branding. We did the mural you see behind us. We have all these illustrations. We have our own avatars for ourselves.
The music.
Yeah, which Peyton made, by the way. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, so like we did everything.
Yeah, it's just the two of us. There was no team. We are editor, artist, host, musician,
producer, director, art director. We could say we're art directors.
Yeah.
We've been art directors for 7 months.
That's so impressive of us.
Yeah, I'm proud of us.
We're starting a project from beginning to end.
No, seriously. Like,
resume worthy.
Truly.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely going to be using this as like stuff for my resume, like for video editing and for like making these assets and stuff. And I think that
like all the branding and social media stuff that you can see if you follow us on the Instagram.
Please, it's super pretty. It's getting really nice.
Very cohesive. I love the colors.
Which is funny story. These colors are not really either of us necessarily.
No. Which is so funny.
It is so funny.
But I think it's how we talk, though.
Yeah, it does. It is how we talk. Like, this is the stuff coming off of us. It's our energy.
Yeah.
When we're together.
Yeah. It's like, what's the word?
Aura.
Yeah.
It's
our friendship aura.
Friendship aura. It's so cute.
How sweet.
It's funny because you can't see it, but on the other side of our wall, we have our artwork out with a gallery to show off. And there's also these colors out there that we painted. And our artwork up there, I don't think any of them have the same exact colors. And people are like, is this your stuff? We're like, yes, it is. They're like, what's this color? And like, you'll just have to wait.
You'll find out.
It's a surprise.
We won't shut up about it. Like,
yeah.
No,
now
seriously,
we can talk about it like crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Not shut up about this for a long time.
Yeah. And it feels good to finally be at that, like, not the, it's the end stage of, like, the push.
It's like, we've done miles of prep work.
Oh my gosh, we did so much prep
so
work.
much prep work. Like, we have so much planned for the future. We didn't just get to 3 episodes and be like, yeah, we can do it. We can post it. It's out there. Mm-hmm. We have it planned for like a long time.
Yeah.
So y'all are in for the long haul. Mm-hmm. If you want, there's a spot in the caravan, in the wagon. I'm reading a book where they're like in a wagon right now. So that's, yeah. Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. Brandy Sandy, that's what I call him. It's really good.
That sounds good.
Book rec, I guess. That's a life update.
Yeah. I drive carriages and wagons in Red Dead Redemption.
There we go. Maybe we need a wagon.
In here?
I don't know, just in general.
That could be fun.
Yeah, we could just have one.
We almost bought a crib for nap time. Anyways, getting sidetracked. Yeah, life and art update. All of our assets. Kind of just for more that like artsy talk. If you want to know what we used for our stuff,
all of our how-tos.
The music was GarageBand, and I just hit random stuff, and it ended up working out because I don't make music, and it was very fun. Like we started our little avatar illustrations and all the other illustrations. You did it in Procreate.
Yes.
I used Clip Studio Paint. I lost my Apple Pencil.
Boo.
I still can't find it.
Still gone.
It's still, but it has made me like sit down at a desk and work on stuff. Okay. So it has worked out. It's been beneficial.
Blessing in disguise, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. And then making the assets in Vector was all through Illustrator by Maddie, and all of the editing and stuff. Making the doodads move has been After Effects, and then actually
and the
doing
trailer and intro.
Yeah,
After
Effects, and all the video editing has been Premiere, and those are all softwares that, except for GarageBand, that we used in school.
Yeah, we learned those in school.
So while we didn't know how to do a podcast, we knew the bits and pieces that made it what it is. We didn't know Premiere either. But like we knew Adobe, and we knew how to learn Adobe,
exactly,
which is Google and Reddit.
Thank you.
And they have all the Adobe softwares have very similar commands. So, but that was fun to have like a reason to learn something new.
Yeah.
And now we have a new thing under our belt.
I love learning new things. It makes me so happy.
I applied to a job the other day, and one of the qualifications you needed was knowing Premiere Pro, and I'm like, guess what? Now I do.
Yeah, guess what? Looky here.
Look, and guess what? That's me in the video too. Like, I can act. No, I
can't. This is all acting, y'all. We scripted the whole thing clearly.
I'm acting more social than I am. That's the acting here.
I see.
I used to hate myself in front of a camera, and now it's nice doing it with somebody else. Doing it by yourself, you're like, what am I talking about?
Yeah, I would feel awkward if it was just me. I've done a few like. Why am I talking about this? I did a few videos for my friends where I would, like midnight bleach my hair at art school videos, and I don't know, I filmed those like I was a famous YouTuber,
but that's so rejuvenating.
It was so funny. I think I'm the only person who thinks it's funny, but I had a giggle and a chuckle. So it's very nice to do this with another person.
Yes, it feels, not that any of it is crazy, but it feels less crazy talking to a camera when you're with somebody else, because it is a conversation between us as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And it helps a lot. But
because this is just how we talk normally.
It really is. Yeah, except this time we have like bullet points to keep us sort of on track.
Sort of, kind of, sort of.
Not really. We try. But this is more natural, so it works out. But speaking of, we'll talk more about like the creation of the podcast probably on both of our individual social medias. Kind of going like now that we're releasing the episodes and people, know about it, we can finally show off what we've done for it. So if you want to hear more about those, I would check out our socials, which are linked below, and just kind of see all the little bits and pieces because they all have meaning.
Yeah, and all of our Our guts.
All of our guts. Yeah, when we say guts.
Let's clarify that.
Yeah, real quick. Do you want to say, like...
Sure. So obviously we are called Art School Dissections, and we were inspired from the cutie little old childhood game of Operation. And so we made our own Operation avatars, and those guts symbolize what we were embodying in art school and also after. So we're gonna go into detail what these little guts mean. But that's us.
Yeah. So check those out. And also, if you look in our description when you're looking for our links, you will see something that says job board.
Yes.
We haven't talked about it before, but now we are. We have a group on LinkedIn where we are going to be posting art jobs that we find, because we know it is hard out there, and finding those jobs can be scary and tiring, and I've been doing it for over a year. It sucks.
It does.
We are here to be like, hey, you want to see some art jobs? We've made a list. And you can just look through it, and we'll continue to update it whenever we find new stuff. It'll be an ongoing thing. So, yeah, if you see that link, that's what it is.
It's a constant resource.
Yes.
So we want to help people out. It's rough. It's so rough. So, there we go.
Yeah. Yay!
So now we're talking about a successful out of art school or in art school project, and a not as successful pace of a project. And we're going to talk about why and how.
Yeah. What made it work? What made it not work? Do you want to start? You want me to start?
Sure, I can start. I will talk about success.
What do you want to start with? Not success.
I want to start with not success.
Okay.
Actually. And then we can build up.
I think that's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
So, my not success, I mentioned a book not too long ago, earlier in this episode, and I have been working on this book on and off ever since I wrote a short story my freshman year of college. So it's been a good old 5. Oh my god, it's been 5 years. That's fine. And I've written. I just been in such spurts because I've just been writing when I've been in the mood that I wrote like 40 pages expanding on this short story in like 2019, and then I didn't touch it for a couple years, and then I went really into it in 2021 and wrote out a whole world and a plot and an outline. And I was just, whenever I felt inspired, I would write in my little notebook these characters and all this stuff. So I've been like planning this, but without any schedule for years now. But starting this year, not starting this year, probably starting in February, I wanted to write a chapter a month. And I've been able to do that for the past 2 months. So I'm working on it, but like it has not been a successful pace, because when I first started writing this book, I was like, oh, I can get this done in a year. No problem. It's been 5. So yeah.
No grace period for yourself.
No. And to be fair, it's a fantasy book. It has a lot of world building. It's all that juicy, fun stuff that I like to read, but it took a minute, and it's not done. Not even close. First draft isn't even cute yet. So first draft, I have like a 20-page dictionary of what I want to write, and then like a 20-page outline of what I'm going to write.
Wow.
And then I have like 15 pages of actual book.
Hey, the prep work is
Yeah.
As we saw with this podcast.
Yeah.
Prep work makes all the difference.
I made prep work an excuse, though, which I did not do for Art School Dissections, for this podcast. For this book, I made the prep work an excuse to not write because I was afraid I was going to be bad. But I'm not. So that's cool to find out. But that's my not as success pace, but we're learning and growing. So we're building up from here.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your not as success?
I do. I think it was in our first episode I talked about the video game that I'm working on that is based on a story I've had for a couple years and what I based my entire thesis off of. I started working on it like last June 2023. And so it's been almost a year of I'm not consistently working on it, but working on it. And I went into it knowing that, yeah, it's going to be hard because I'm basically solo developing a video game in a medium that I'm not completely used to. I don't know how to code. So I will be getting help for that. I'm like, yeah, I've written out the entire outline of the story. I know the summary, I know the characters, I know the setting.
Yeah.
I know everything to it. So I'm like, this isn't gonna take that long. I'm estimating 3 to 5 years worth of time. And then I didn't have a schedule set for myself because when you're looking at something that is that big and broad, it's so hard to break it down into bullet points because you don't know
where to start.
Yeah, and I've never made a video game before. I didn't know what steps I needed because when you look it up, what steps you need in developing a video game, the first 10 are making the story. I'm like, I've done that. The story is done.
Hey!
But then it doesn't have anything after that. And I was like, that doesn't help me. I don't know what to do. And then I got tired of it and I took a really big break for 2 months because I needed to separate myself from it for a bit.
Yeah.
Because I still am in the developing every little step in the process of when you're playing the game. Because I want to do that before I start, fleshing out art, before I start fleshing out little stuff here and there. Because that'll help me just start steamrolling it when I get there. At least I think that's how I typically work. And now I'm thinking it's gonna be at least over 7 years. That there's no way I can do it any faster. And I just didn't know that. Now I know that. And when I have the energy, now that this podcast is being released, and kind of the heavy work is basically over with.
Yeah.
I have work. Yeah. And the editing and 3 episodes at once, I will have the time to sit down and make that schedule because I need it. Because it's not the project's still there. With your book, it's not oh, I didn't make the schedule. It's kind of gone. I'm over it. It's just a little bit at a time. And I still love it. I'm so excited to work on it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those I thought I gave myself a grace period. I thought 5 years is crazy, man. No, because that was if I was working every single day on it, and I set aside at least half an hour every single day for it, which I don't have the energy for. And now that I know my energy level and how I want to also work on other stuff at the same time, and I have work and I have a social life, now I can plan into that. Maybe so many hours a week and just spread it out how it needs to be, as opposed to every single day I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Because then you don't want it to get to the point where it feels like a chore, because not that you're going to stop loving it. It could start to feel a little less special.
Yeah. When it starts to feel oh, I have to do this.
No, it's fun.
You get to do something that's exciting, that you love, that you poured so many hours and love into, but it also is work. And I think that's also, this is a tangent. I know it's a tangent, But just because we enjoy the work we do, that doesn't make it less work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like just because we enjoy drawing, that doesn't mean it isn't work.
Yeah.
That's something that I've had to explain to people who don't make things.
Artists draw that fine line between work and play.
Yeah.
Like, it is such a fine line, and sometimes there isn't even a line. Like, it just is both, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's when you really have to find your pace and your drive so you don't burn yourself out. Because art school burnout is wild. Artist burnout is also wild.
Yeah.
It can happen at any time.
It can. We should do an episode on that.
We should do an episode on that. That could be a good one.
Yeah.
A sad one, but a good one.
A sad and good one.
Yeah. But talking about not so sad, a successful pace that we have.
Successful pace. So, I know I've already spoken about my Mad Maximus Tarot deck prior, but I do think that was a very successful project pace wise because it was stretched over 8 months ish.
Wow.
8-9 months ish if we're counting this month. And I was able to dedicate like a set amount of hours every week to, and like it did fluctuate based on what we decided was priority at that time, but I planned ahead. I had a whole spreadsheet. Spreadsheets and journals help me. I am that girl. I do need to write it down. I do need to know what I need to do. I won't remember if I don't write it down. Mm-hmm. So I have this big old master spreadsheet of this is exactly what I need to do by this date, and this is what are the expectations, these are the deliverables, and this is what I'm meeting with my partner with on the label with, and this is what we have expectations on this week. Like we met weekly every Wednesday, unless one of us was out of town, and updated where the project was going. So I think that weekly accountability was really nice. It also helped bridge the gap from like, oh, this kind of feels like art school a little bit because I have a weekly meeting like a class. Mm-hmm. So having that accountability with that really kept the project on track, and I was able to get everything done by the date we set out and able to do more on top of that, like product photography and designing shirts and getting up a store, getting a store set up, and yeah, doing all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So I built a website in this tangential to the process, but it was like all happening at the same time, and I was able to do it in tandem. And in summation, the pace was nice because I had a weekly check-in and an expectation for myself on a weekly basis, and I knew exactly what needed to be done. Mm-hmm. And having those steps laid out helped me so much. You know, the deliverables, that's half the battle.
Yeah.
So that was my success, my tarot deck. It's out now, by the way, y'all. Yes. So go look at her. She's really pretty.
Please. She's so pretty. My success story it's a little less professional, but it was a class project that I did. It was a lino print relief project I did for a printmaking class. It was in tandem with like a wood cutting relief. They were done at the exact same time. I hate wood cutting, so I just kind of like it was one of those times where I both those things happened at the same time. It was the final semester senior year, and I kind of just looked at all I had going on. Capstone was its own world. I knew what I was doing for that, and for my other stuff, I looked at this project and I said, I am extremely passionate about this. I didn't care for the woodcut, so I already told myself it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be what it's going to be. I'm going to do what I need, and then I'm leaving it. But the lino cut is what I want to do. Yeah. And I'm excited for it. So I did a two mirroring dragons with like Celtic designs on the sides of them. And they were kind of in like an old, I don't know what style it is, like runic.
Yeah.
They're like blocky shapes.
They're really pretty.
I'll show pictures of them. I should post them up. But they're facing each other, and one is like normal, and the other one is all skeleton. And so that was just the main. I was only gonna do one, and then I said I want to carve bones. So I said I'm gonna do two. And then I got to that point, and I stopped myself, and I thought like, okay, do I have the time for this? But I was so excited for it, it didn't matter. I was like, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna plan for it. Like, I'm gonna work on this at home. I'm gonna make sure it gets done because I'm so excited. And then as I'm carving it, I'm like, what am I going to print them on to make them fun? And so I went to a thrift store and I bought a book set in medieval times, and I cut out the pages and I printed the dragons on facing pages that like talked about some, like the words on it were very medieval, like princess and dragon and dungeon and castle, and, you know, all that jousting. And I had them facing each other, and then I did that, and I was like, hey, I was so into this, I finished them all. What do I do now? I made the time for myself. I finished the woodcut. I was like, screw it. I hate it. I don't really care. It's done. Put it to the side. So all the time is for this instead. And that was the, like, accepting failure for one thing to ensure the success of another. It's just kind of a nice, like, breath of fresh air. And then I hand sewed the facing pages together.
It looks really good.
I was like, sure, yeah, I'm gonna do this. My professor was like, she could tell that I didn't care about the woodcut, and she's like, she didn't have much to say on it because she knew how I felt about it. She was just like, all right. And she's like, why did you hand sew these together? And I'm like, because they look cool.
Because I wanted to.
Because I wanted to.
For the craft,
For the craft. So it's a little less like I had it like planned out necessarily like in the schedule. It was more of like a successful like passion creation where like sometimes you just have those things you're working on where you are so excited for it that time doesn't mean anything, and it gets done because you're just like, this is what I'm doing. And you get to that point where you're like, I have more time, I'm going to then do the next thing, and I'm gonna, you know, definitely like, I had the idea for the book pages early on, but I was like, I'm not gonna have time. There's no way I'm gonna have time. So I stopped myself, and then I got to the end and I was like, no, I can. I'm gonna go out and do that. And I was like, I really want to sew them together, but there's no way I'm going to have time. So I'm going to just allot for what I'm doing now. And then I checked it off, and I was like, oh, I can.
Oh,
I can.
I have a spare 2 hours.
Yeah.
During finals week.
I think it was like, I did 10 prints. So you had to have 5 of each, and they counted as one.
Dang.
So, yeah. Anyways. Yeah, that was just a fun project. I like talking about that one.
It's very cool.
Thank you. I might still have some for sale.
Hey.
Yeah, but I do want to say that it is hard to not separate, but it's hard to see the similarities between like profession and the stuff you make at art school, because I was saying that it's not professional
but it is. Yes. It is a professional piece, like done in a professional studio. So
it's just so hard to be like, this is a project, to stop saying this is a project I did for art school and be like, this is a project I did.
Yeah, because you did do it. It's regardless of whether you did it in school or not. Yeah, like you're still learning outside of school. I think that's the thing. People are like, "Oh, you did it in school, so you're still a baby. You didn't know anything." I don't know anything now, and I graduated. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's like kind of the distinction between like, stop saying you're an aspiring artist.
Right. Yeah.
You are an artist.
You are a professional.
If you are creating, you are an artist. You're not like, even if you're learning, you're still an artist. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
So stop saying, I'm an aspiring artist, or this is just something I did at school. Like, this is a project I did.
Yeah.
and it makes that more for you and less for academic reasons, and it speaks more to your character.
And I think one of the things that at least helped me feel more professional in what I make is pace, and like is being able to adhere to a schedule that I found for myself works for me in my brain. And so making that distinction might also be helpful.
Absolutely.
I think that wraps it up.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Unless you have any more points you would like to
touch on? I don't think so.
No,
we really.
A lot of the stuff that we might have missed, we're gonna think about later, and they're probably for other episodes, anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
We have a lot of content.
You'll just have to stick around.
Yes, just keep listening.
Oh no!
Oh, what a shame. Sorry you have to listen to this talk
on a podcast.
You've already been here for like an hour. Oh no! You're so upset.
Well, yeah. Do we want to?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna open my mouth like I'm making the sound.
Beautiful.
For the beep. Just so you know.
Well, thanks for operating with us.
This is Art School Dissections.
And I'm Maddie Gabhart.
Take care of your guys.
And make something cool.
Or bad.
Bye. I couldn't read because the sun was in my eye.